Nvidia surprised all of us a few weeks ago when reviews went live for their RTX 4090 Founders Edition, a monstrous graphics card delivering unprecedented speeds, exceptional ray tracing performance, and shockingly decent thermals. It kind of makes you wonder what's left for board partners to set themselves apart with their own custom variants featuring the big AD102 chip. Today we'll check out one such offering from MSI with their RTX 4090 SUPRIM Liquid X. Let's see if this liquid-cooled beast has any tricks up its sleeve.
Before we continue, thanks to CD Key Offer for sponsoring this video. Right now, CD Key Offer is having a Windows 10 sale, including global lifetime keys for Windows 10 Pro. Right now, they're even letting you stack my offer code on top of their offer. Use code BITWIT.TECH at checkout for an additional discount and snag a legit Windows 10 key for just $16. Afterwards, simply view and copy the key you just purchased, paste it into the Windows activation page, and presto. Enjoy every feature Windows 10 has to offer, ditch the watermark, and even use it for a free upgrade to Windows 11. CDKeyOffer.com is also having a back-to-school physical sale on gear like mechanical keyboards, gaming headsets, RGB decor, and more. Remember kids, just because you're going back to school doesn't mean you can't leverage this awful time in your life to your benefit. By the way, you don't need to be a student to take advantage of any of these deals, so congratulations! Everything sucks a lot less for you. Check out the links in the description below and start browsing all of the limited time deals on CDKeyOffer.com.
The MSI RTX 4090 SUPRIM Liquid X has an official MSRP of $1,750 US, $250 more than the 4090 Founders Edition launch price of $1,600. But since MSRP doesn't mean much these days, a look at current street pricing offers a more realistic comparison. At the time of filming, the 4090 FE is going for about $2,100 on the low end, while the SUPRIM Liquid X will set you back about $2,350, a 12% price hike over the FE. Today we'll explore what kind of performance and features you get for that 12%, and ultimately if it's worth your hard-earned coin in the end. Taking a close-up look at the physical card, the CLC form factor makes the Liquid X the smallest or largest RTX 4090 on the market, depending on how you look at it. With the heavy cooling left to the 240mm radiator, the card is shorter than the FE and gets away with a 2-slot design, leaving more clearance for the case and the adjacent PCIe slot should you need it. On the flip side, the radiator assembly needs to mount somewhere, so you're really trading one clearance requirement in for another. Overall build quality and aesthetics are top-notch in my book. The shroud is plated with a brushed aluminum cover that practically begs for vertical mounting to show off the premium craftsmanship. That being said, the card doesn't really have any bad angles. Sharp, clean lines are present throughout, with beveled edges that are finely machined and visible all around. I'm glad MSI strayed away from decking out the card with unicorn puke, as I don't think it would mesh well with the otherwise classy design. The few RGB elements, like the chevron by the fan frame and the SUPRIM logo on the backplate, are integrated tastefully, adding the right amount of bling. As with the 4090 FE, the card uses the new 12-volt high power plug, which has been a fiery topic of controversy lately, but I'm happy to report a smoke-free experience so far. Atop the GPU die is a low-profile pump connected to the 240mm aluminum radiator with a pair of MSI's Meg Silent Gale P12 fans, sporting anti-vibration pads on both sides for aided noise reduction. Radiator fans on AIO GPUs are often an afterthought. They can be noisy, cheap-looking, or both, making you want to swap them immediately. But the P12s are actually decent-looking, quiet under load, and completely silent at 0 RPM when temperatures are relatively low. This goes for the shroud fan that cools the VRM as well. The radiator fan cables are pre-routed and pre-wired, and while I wish they were fully braided, running invisibly through the PVC tubes back to the card for zero cable management fuss is a really nice touch. Rounding things out, the aluminum backplate doubles as a heatsink with thermal pads beneath it to keep certain parts of the custom PCB cool, and there's a BIOS switch near the power connector for silent and gaming modes. Rear I/O remains the same as on the Founders Edition, with 3 DisplayPort 1.4a ports and a single HDMI 2.1. Whether you love or hate the styling of the SUPRIM Liquid X is for you to decide, but this is, in my humble opinion, one of the highest quality cards MSI has ever made, and it's guaranteed to be a head-turning statement piece in any build, especially with all of its liquid-cooled assets on display. Fortunately, the robust cooling solution isn't just for aesthetics. With the 4090 FE already being a relatively cool card, the SUPRIM Liquid X manages to drop temps by 10 degrees Celsius under load, achieving a max of 54°C. I don't recall if I've ever seen a flagship GPU achieve these temperatures with a stock cooler, whether it be one of the liquid or air variety, but this is an impressive feat that may appeal to heat-wary enthusiasts not willing to fork out the time, money, and effort for a custom loop. A brief note on power consumption. MSI claims an 850 watt power supply at minimum, recommending a 1000 unit if possible. In testing, the card pulled a max of 460 watts from the wall, just slightly higher than the 4090 Fe. An 850 watt unit should be enough for most users, but if you're going bananas with overclocks or pairing a power-hungry CPU with no desire to undervolt, you may want to bump up the power just in case. Before diving into the benchmarks, here's a quick look at the testing hardware. Apart from the 4090 SUPRIM Liquid X and 4090 Fe, I also tested the two RTX 30 series GPUs that I included in my original 4090 review. The Zotac RTX 3090 Ti Amp Extreme Hollow, and the MSI RTX 3080 SUPRIM X, which uses an air cooler not to be confused with the all-in-one liquid cooler on the 4090 SUPRIM Liquid X. All GPUs ran at their stock clock out-of-the-box frequencies, using the V-BIOS designed for maximum gaming performance. The remaining hardware was kept identical to the testbed in my original 4090 review, with a stock Ryzen 9 7950X on an Asus ROG Crosshair X670E Hero with 32 gigs of G.Skill Trident Z5 Neo DDR5 6400 speed DRAM. And with that, here are the benchmarks. Alright, combining all the frames rendered across 7 game titles, we can see that the MSI 4090 SUPRIM Liquid X delivered negligible gains over Nvidia's 4090 Founders Edition, with an uplift of roughly 0.1 to 0.2% at 1440p. Far more impressive is how powerful these new GPUs are compared to last gen, performing 34% faster than the RTX 3090 Ti and 43% faster than the RTX 3090. At 3840 by 2160, the 4090 SUPRIM Liquid X barely outpaces the 4090 Fe once again, showing that its value really shines in other areas outside of performance. Here at 4K, the 4090s beat the Ampere GPUs by an even wider margin, rendering 61% more frames on average than the 3090 Ti and 74% more than the 3090, which is truly an insane generational uplift. Of course, performance should always be considered relative to price, and based on current street pricing, the 30 series GPUs still offer the best bang for the buck. At 1440p, the RTX 3090 leads the pack, offering 1 frame per dollar, while the 3090 Ti manages to crank out 0.85 FPD. The value proposition of the 30 series has increased significantly in recent months, as prices have plummeted due to waning interest with the 40 series arrival. At just 0.58 frames per dollar, MSI's 4090 SUPRIM Liquid X offers the weakest priced performance of the bunch. The value gap between Ada and Ampere tightens noticeably at 4K. While the 3090 still leads by a landslide, the 4090 Fe is nearly on par with the RTX 3090 Ti value-wise, even though it's going for roughly twice the price. It's a true testament to the 4090's raw performance and 4K competency, and further validation since my initial 4090 review that pulling the trigger on Nvidia's latest GPU makes the most sense for gaming at very high resolutions. MSI's 4090 SUPRIM Liquid X doesn't exactly offer much in the way of value, but an aftermarket liquid-cooled variant of a new flagship GPU rarely does. While the premium price of this card can't be reasoned from purely a performance standpoint over the 4090 Fe, those willing to fork out the extra cash see enough value in the card's incredible thermal performance, its form factor which may provide the clearance they need, and because the card just looks badass. Aesthetics isn't typically something you get to be picky about with tighter budgets, but if you have the money to burn, this card definitely has a cool factor in more ways than one. But that's gonna do it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please toss a like on it before you go and get subscribed for more tech content on the way. As always, thank you so much for watching, have a good one, and I'll see y'all in the next video.